Good afternoon, good evening. Also, uh, it is almost I think 7:38 in South Korea. So it is a great honor, ma'am, to have you with us today in dialogue on mediation. Ma'am, had the honor of Lester sir, one of the before, and we do this international dialogue. And then after that, we have started this whole initiative, dialogue on mediation, where we are trying to have dialogue with very senior people from all across the world on different dimensions of mediation that we are trying. Gandhi, Smriti are trying together a free online course on community mediation. So with all these dialogues that we are having with all the experts from all across the world, we are going to put them as our reading material or our course material. So it is a great honor, ma'am, Madam Mariam,
Thank you.
to join us for this dialogue on mediation. Let me introduce to all the audience, Madam Mariam M. Kurtz is co-editor of the two-volume Women, War and Violence, Typography, Resistance and Hope. She is a visiting scholar at the Jimmy and Rosalind Carter School of Peace and Conflict Studies at the George Mason University. She has been fellow at the Center of African Studies at Harvard University and an adjunct faculty member at Georgetown University, where she taught the course on transnational perspectives on conflict. She has worked as a journalist in newspapers, radio, and television in Tanzania and the Voice of America. And she holds a diploma from the Tanzanian School of Journalism, University of Dar es Salaam, a bachelor's degree of communication from St. Edward's University, and a PhD from the Carter School of Peace and she explored the impact of globalization, resource acquisition, land acquisition for mining on social relations and conflict in Africa. Dr. Kurtz has published many headline and feature stories as well as scholarly chapters that bear directly or indirectly on the topics of globalization, war, violence, and women. Ma'am, it is a great honor to have you with us, ma'am. And today we will focus a lot on the issue of restorative justice. I remember when I was having a dialogue with you and sir some time back, and I was told that you were when you were teaching in Georgetown University, you had a lot of work issue restorative justice. Also, ma'am, the person who is going to conduct the dialogue today is Mansi Sharma, and she's a lawyer by profession. She teaches in several law faculties in the colleges here in the state of Punjab. Also, she does a dual role. She teaches also in the Department of Gandhian Studies besides the law faculty. So she teaches in the teaches Gandhian political thought and social thought. So also she is doing a PhD on mediation in here in the Punjab University. So in fact, the questions I requested Mansi, because she teaches that in the university. So I requested her to frame some questions on which we will be having the dialogue today, and she framed it for you. And Mansi, if you are there, we should start straight away. Mansi, can you hear us?
Yes, sir. Please let me know
Hello,
if I am audible. Hello?
Yes,
am I
audible? So please go ahead. Yes, you are audible, and please start straight away.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Hello, ma'am. It is a pleasure to conduct this dialogue with you. And since the area you have an expertise in is very interesting and also relates to the topic on which I am pursuing my PhD. So I am actually very excited to ask the questions which have been framed. So, ma'am, beginning straight away with the questions, since your expertise area is restorative justice, which has a lot in common with community mediation, because in community mediation also we try to repair the damages which have been done so that the relationships are also not affected. So, ma'am, but the thing with the restorative justice is that you cannot repair everything. Everything cannot be brought back to normal as it was. So the harm is not necessarily material. It is not necessarily which can be compensated. There are various aspects of any crime. So, ma'am, how challenging it is to repair the emotional, the psychological, or the mental part of any crime to restore it, through the process of restoration? Ma'am, I
Ma'am,
think
you
you
are
need to
not audible.
unmute yourself.
Please unmute yourself, ma'am.
Yes, I did. Yeah, thank you. So, yeah, thank you. That is a very good question. And first of all, we have to understand the whole concept of restorative justice is to restoring and to maintain relationship in a community. So the idea is to bring sides in the conflict together for the sake of the community as well as individuals in the community in order to coexist peacefully. So in this process, the challenging here, I mean, in psychological approach to this is I'm seeing more through truth and forgiveness and reconciliation. That's only to be able to address psychological needs. It's different from material needs. You can address that by compensation. You harm somebody, oh, I'm sorry, I can give you something. You can. It's easier to deal with the material needs than psychological needs. Psychological needs is more complicated. Because the harm is not only on physical, in both, is even in mental is a harm. So and when that kind of something like that happen, so the challenge is forgiving. How are you going to be able to forgive somebody who caused so much harm in your life? How much you can forgive somebody if you are a victim of genocide in Rwanda? The entire family was what disappeared, were killed. Everybody was killed. It was only you standing in this earth. Then you are telling me to forgive somebody. So it's easy to some people to be able to forgive, but it's still challenging to a lot of people to able to forgive. And when we talk about forgiving, it doesn't mean to forget. We are listening today. I believe most of us we're experiencing situation. Somebody did something wrong to us. We've been wrong. Somebody, we felt something. We've been hurt emotionally or physically or materially, in different ways, and it's easy to forgive other areas. Some people are easy, like Mahatma Gandhi, Nelson Mandela, Desmond Tutu. They are very exceptional people. They have a different to forgive. So I want to talk about another example. For example, I'm giving an example for people who shows how difficult to forgive. The widow of Stephen Biko in South Africa. His wife, for her, she was very expressive that for me to forgive somebody who killed my husband, and it gave her difficulties, me to become single mother and raise two sons in this kind of apartheid authoritarian government in South Africa. So that harm and that process of be able to raise those two sons, and the pain she went through for her was so hard to forgive. And another example I want to give to tell you how difficult it is, how challenging it is. People of Acholi, the addresses they've been showing, so this is traditional way, they show so very it become they give us they have this very symbolic example to express and understand that. I think traditionally they understand it. They have this traditional of drinking bitter herb. So after the mediation process, the end of the mediation, they are ready to forgive. They'll create this bitter herb, the drink, very bitter. Then everybody in a conflict has to drink it. That means that is a symbolic, psychologically. It's very hard to forgive, but you have to forgive. We are drinking this bitter herb, is hard, but that's how to keep life has to go. To have to go on for the sake of a relationship, for the sake of the community and the future of our community.
Right. Thank you, ma'am. It is indeed very difficult to forgive when there are crimes which have been committed against you, and
Mhm.
at times the crimes are of such nature that even if you forgive time and again, those memories are going to haunt you.
Yes, yes, very true.
So, ma'am, what all efforts can be made by the experts who actually know about the entire process of community mediation or restorative justice so as to make it easier for people to forgive? What all suggestions you will give so as to the people who are actually who have been done wrong with can change this equation of revenge into that of forgiveness and peace. So how a new narrative can be settled into their mind that whatever you are doing is for the betterment of both the parties.
Yes, I think the best way to deal with that is a little complicated because you cannot say everybody, because we are not the same. We are different human beings. Everybody is different with a different culture, different backgrounds in different places. So I cannot suggest something can be applied everywhere, but we can adapt things. You know, there's a good stuff about the India aspect of restorative justice that could be adapted. We can hybrid, you can come in between court system and traditional approach to restorative justice, hybrid something there. But also I think if for people who understand Ubuntu, people live in the principles of Ubuntu. Principles of Ubuntu is being defined as I'm here because you are. We're a human being. We are independent. We are interrelated. We coexist. So so if we understand those kind of aspects, it will be easy for understanding I'm here because you are. This has to do with this, okay? As I said from the first question, material harm could be paid. You can pay compensation, but not everything can be compensated. Some things you cannot compensate it. Some other harm you cannot compensate. So when you deal with the conflict, always have to remember principles of Ubuntu. I'm here because we coexist. You know, we are independent being. We interrelated. So I'm giving this an example. Okay, I own maybe expensive dress. So in walking somewhere, my neighbor or friend damage my dress for something, and I will say, pay my dress, pay me back. I will go and buy a dress and pay that person that dress. But the challenge is not everything can be compensated in that way. I can just go back, I can replace that damage. No. So what if our children play outside, okay, or in school, and another child is maybe cause a harm, another child maybe broken the leg or eye, maybe throw a pen and the pen enter in the lid on the eye, and she become maybe blind, she could not see anymore. Are you gonna be able to pay that person? We cannot pay. So those things you have to understand. That's what in the traditional society, especially African or where I grew up, they emphasize on relationship, because you do something for me, tomorrow something can be, it's yours. I can pay you because I messed up your dress. So tomorrow your children in playing accidentally damage my son's or my daughter's eye. Could you pay me? You cannot pay. So I think the way best to deal with this, to bring parties together, and the new narrative, people have to understand, I think it's to understand that we coexist, and not everything can be repaid, and the culture of Ubuntu, which is value more relationship, and the future relationship has to be embraced.
Ma'am, here actually, before Mansi asks your question, I want to ask you, especially in the context of the Rwanda genocide. Oh, they had those traditional system of what we call the gachacha courts.
Yes.
The tradition system. As someone who has worked in Africa, I wanted to ask you, after the genocide, how successful were the use of the gacaca in trying to bring the Hutus and the Tutsis together in some form of solidarity, and the whole idea of restorative justice and forgiveness and reconciliation. How successful the gacaca system was.
Yeah, gacaca is like a truth and the reconciliation commission in South Africa, and there's a lot of negativity about gacaca. A lot of people they believe that gacaca was biased and did not take other people. Other people were prosecuted and the other people were not prosecuted. You see, so they did not feel that there's a fair. It wasn't very fair process on the gacaca. Yeah, so I'm not sure, but I can't say. Maybe there is success. It's not very clear for me because I never looked much on it. But what I know, there is some complaint, and a lot of people, they're unsatisfied with the process, that they claim that the process was biased.
Relation is that you just spoke and talked about in details about the idea of Ubuntu, and it has very important percolation in the context of Africa. But here we find different kind of types in different countries of Africa. Let's say whether it is Sudan, Somalia, or Cameroon. Quite a number, though Cameroon, I've been interacting with the Cameroon Women organization and all, and they are doing amazing work. Yet there are so much of strife in Congo. So in some way or the other, would you say this whole philosophy of Ubuntu has percolated intrinsically to the spirit of
I'm sorry, can you repeat again? I have a trouble hearing because dropping the phone. Can you repeat again? At the end, the last couple sentences. You
yes,
say like
in
other African countries have been using Ubuntu, and
I wanted to ask you, Ubuntu is a important context of Africa. Whenever we can think of Africa and people coming together, peace, this key word, Ubuntu comes in the mind. But yet there are so many strifes still in different countries of Africa, whether it is Sudan, whether South Sudan, whether Cameroon, Mali, and so forth. So I've been interacting with so many organizations in all these countries of Africa. Would you say that the philosophy of Ubuntu has failed to percolate in the psyche and Africans?
Oh, thank you. You are.
Ethiopian crisis is also something which also comes to my mind. The Tigray conflict that is going on now.
Yes. Thank you. That question is beautiful. Thank you. That's a great question. Ubuntu never fail. Ubuntu will prevail. Human being, the agents of Ubuntu are the one failing. We're failing Ubuntu. Ubuntu never fail. Ubuntu is a value that is embedded in our culture, but greedy individuality and selfishness is driving us away from Ubuntu. So that's when you see those conflict in DRC is about power struggle. The whole idea in Ethiopia is the power. Ethiopia Somalia is a power struggle. You see, so all that is the people are the one failing Ubuntu, not Ubuntu is failing. Ubuntu is there. Ubuntu's roots exist in African culture, a lot of part of Africa for centuries. But people, they're failing to recognize it. Some who recognize it, they're using it in most of the time in a very lower level because there's no power struggle, right? So we use Ubuntu caring of each other down its grassroots, But when you come up and higher in the government, higher level, there's there's something to struggle. There's struggling of power, and the failing of Ubuntu. The Ubuntu is failing. African people, they are taking care of each other in the funeral. A lot of places, people has no life insurance. They don't have health insurance. They don't have funeral insurance, right? So they are depending on their neighbors. When tomorrow or today somebody passed away in my family, I know my neighbor will be there for me. My neighbors will be there for me. They will come, they will take care, they will contribute to the entire community, and other people even across the community. They will raise funds, they will take care of everything, they will feed me, they will bury that family member. So we took care of each other so well down and in a grassroots. But when you come to the government level, selfishness and the conflict is about power, about resources, hungry, who want to be in power so they can control the natural resources. The DRC is a very wealthy country. They have so much mining. Why they never stop fighting? And then Kabila is out of power, still has the influence, want to be in the power again. You see, so I'm going back again to summarize it. Ubuntu never failed, but human being, we are the one failing Ubuntu.
Can you hear us?
Yes.
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Ma'am, since you mentioned just now that at times the governments or even any other offender is actually doing some kind of harm, which is not easy to be forgiven, right, ma'am? Once they have this feeling of repentance and they want to undo this harm, so like in restorative justice, also the offender needs to take the responsibility of the actions and for any harm, whatever they have caused. So does this acceptance by the offender make his or her reintegration into the community tough? Is it difficult for the people to accept it as normal citizens of the country or normal members of the society once they have accepted their harm they have caused and they try to restore it, whether it be government or any other person?
Oh, so like integration of the offender back in the community that you're talking about?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Reintegration of the offender.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Integration of the offender. For example, when you look at maybe people killing other people, were committed in high crime of killing, in a genocide in Rwanda, for example. Wow, you can imagine, if you know somebody. I mean, always who are killing, they never been there. They were jailed, and some people they came out. So I'm not sure, because I'm not from Rwanda. I'm not sure how do they deal with those people who are coming from that kind of situation. But I have example about Chad soldiers. Chad soldiers, I have interviewed Chad soldiers in the young men who were abducted by Lord Resistant Army in Rwanda, and I spoke with them. And for them to go back to the community, to be integrated to the community, is difficult. So the time I was interviewing them, they were young men before they turned 18. So they were living in a foster home. There's another friend of mine who is a I think Catholic nun, and she has a foster care, and they are taking care of these young men who were rescued from the army. So for them to be integrated to the community usually is very difficult. And first of all, they are facing a lot of stigma, and themselves, they have a behavior issue of aggression and violence, because they grew up around the violence. They have nothing else they know, no school, no nothing. They live in the bush. What they know is to fight, to take the gun and live those. They are forced to live life they're not from their own will as a children. So and also they are facing issue of fear of their securing securing their life chances. You know, they are too old to go to school. They came out from they've been rescued. Maybe they're much too old. They cannot start elementary school. They passed the age of elementary school. So they have a lot of this dilemma in their lives. For girls, they suffer a lot for them, even in the marriages, because when you talk about child soldiers, they are not only boys, even girls who are adopted. So when they get to the age of getting married, they don't get married. People they associate them with the bush, girls from the bushes, you know. So those are challenging to integrate these people, offenders, like for example child soldiers. So I'm not then, but it become more complicated when you talk about how we integrate the rapist, somebody who knows somebody raped somebody and they stay in a community, how we integrate that. So that is a problem too. So they're facing their own challenges, even in our own modern societies. You know, could be easy to integrate somebody, do like a lower crime, you know, higher crime, but much, depending on the context. I don't call it at a lower crime, but somebody like a thieves, robbers, you know, somebody who committed adulteries, you know, how we integrate those people. Those could be easy. Those could be much easier. I mean, still there's a challenges, but will be less obstacles to integrate. Because we live in a society, people used to be thieves. Oh, you know, this guy, he used to be robbers, but now he doesn't do that anymore. You know, this guy used to be this, you know, they go back to the communities and they live free lives. But when you come to the people who are like a child soldiers, even like they are not themselves committed from their own will, but they are facing problem to be integrated, to go back to those communities. They're not accepted in those communities still.
Ma'am, what Mansi has asked, no, just one about just a question regarding that offender integration. Please, can you share your experience on the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of South Africa? That would be interesting insight, whether the offenders could be, you know, in some way, as Mansi was asking. So, what are your thoughts in that? Whether they,
can you repeat? I didn't get the question. Can you repeat again, please?
yes, ma'am. As Mansi asked you regarding the whether the existence of these offenders to get integrated into the reintegration of the offender to the community. So, in the context of ma'am, after the Truth and the Reconciliation Commission, whether it was successful in South Africa, that was my question.
Yeah, in the context of South Africa, I don't know much because I never live in South Africa. So I wasn't involved in any of those. I hope one day I'll get opportunity to be able to explore more in those places. So I cannot really answer that because I don't have experience being there and see it.
Mansi, please continue. Mansi.
Thank you, sir. Ma'am, since I'm pursuing my PhD in role of non-violent communication and mediation, so I would like you to talk upon how do you look at non-violent communication? To briefly introduce the term to you, unlike any other communication, non-violent communication is essentially human in nature. It will be compassionate, empathetic, as well as the communicator will be very careful about what all he is doing and also about the responses of the people he is communicating with. So, ma'am, this kind of communication, which is non-violent in nature, has a role to play in restorative justice? And if yes, do you think the techniques which will be involved in communicating while being non-violent at the same time will differ from case to case, or can they be applied universally? Like one technique can be applied to each and every dispute we are handling. So, ma'am, what do you have to say about this?
Yes, yes. First of all, we have to understand that I think I have a bachelor in communication, So I studied communication, non-verbal communication. So yes, we as a human being, and we're not even realized to ourselves how much we communicate. Non-verbal communication is a huge part of human being. Is about 70% of communication is non-verbal. So if you're a mediator and you can read non-verbal communication, or you know how to identify the cues of non-verbal communication, that's a great gift. And so, you know, in non-verbal communication, when you listen to someone, you don't just listen to someone, the sound bites. No. We look about the body language, the way we move, the way, how intense we are. So you can catch stuff, you can catch things, you know. And for me as a journalist, you know, I was trained as a journalist since I finished high school. I was practicing journalism. And this is also a gift, because when you go somewhere, we talk to someone, then you can grab the cues. This person is lying. This person want to get me out of here. That's not true. So you empower yourself in other ways, how to approach questions, how to approach to other you know, different ways. You can be more flexible on things, even become more more sympathetic. You know, it's a gift. You can do a lot of things with it. If you I think so that is very important in communicating when you come to deal with restorative justice. And I remember I was teaching this class Georgetown, and we are watching this movie about the movie called Dead Man Walking. Dead Man Walking is about this young man rape a young group of young men and rape a young woman in somewhere in the United States. The scene was in the United States. And so after they rape her, then they kill her. So the family, they are so angry. So everybody in the community, they just want the justice. The justice was defined as they have to be prosecuted. They have to be killed too. Death penalty is a solution to provide relief to the family of the victim. So in that process, so we're looking what does justice mean here. So are they feeling relief? Sense of relief came after this guy got death penalty, was killed, and is that really relief? You know. So, and also we are talking about the truth. How sure? Because you know, you know, a lot of time people who end up to jail, you know, sometimes they never been commit crime. Okay, somebody really commit crime, they never go to jail. They get a good lawyer, stand for them, they're just out. They commit crime too, but they will never serve the jail time. They never been. So we are talking about it. So we asked that boy, if this boy, at the end of the day, that boy was executed. So I was asking them, I said, so I'm losing my thought. Anyway, yeah. So I was saying, so is this boy, if he was rich, is a boy coming from the wealthy family, do you think he might end up being executed? They say no. If it might possible, yes, and possible no. But chances might be possible not. He might walk away. And because one of the students said, because they can fake this polygraphy, is like a lie test. When somebody they ask the personal question, then they put the detect if he's saying the truth or not. So I was like, oh, so to understand non-verbal communication is very important, because even there's the polygraphy, you know, lie detector can get manipulated. See, so we're going back again. I think non-verbal communication is very important, and in listening, and we listen like in a more effective listening is very important also in this context. And yes, I think that's it.
Ma'am, and a question asked by Mansi, continuing with that, generally, ma'am, actually, no, I'm talking as you are a person from the field of communication. And as we all know that there are contentions and contestations on the role of communication, whether sometimes you see, as we remember the radio mile, the role of the radio mile in Rwanda in furthering the genocide, or if you see the Balkan War, where again the role of the media, the role of the communication tool was to promote the genocide. In this context, as someone who has been understanding the global media, international ways and journal, how communication, different forms of communication work, how different media work, how do you think whether is there any space, especially in the context of today's world when there is so much of hate speech and hate narratives going on, the role of non-violent communication, whether it has any role in the in the field of journalism, how important the field of journalism can incorporate the ideas and the essence of non-violent communication, and is there any way, or it is just more of like a theoretical thing where we or I and you are or others are talking, but in the practical it is almost impossible, because of course when we are talking of the globalization of the media, it is the corporate structures which corporates which run these media, and there are so many interests that are there in the running of the media. So how practical it is when we are talking of non-violent communication vis-a-vis journalism today?
Yes, yeah. So journalism now is very different. It's a journalism, yes, is there, but also social media, and this has bring different because 20, 30 years ago we are talking about media, we talk about radio, TV, and the newspaper, right? That's not the mainstream media we can use. But now there's so much, and everybody can report. Everybody can own their own TV, online TV, so everybody can come with their own angle, whatever they feel, they put it. But really journalism is, we have to know that we have to take responsibilities. We have so much power in the safety and I mean, if could like Garton is calling like a peace journalism. So, but I don't know much about. No, let's talk about my own experience with being a journalist. So, as a journalist, we look about our responsibilities as a journalist. Okay, so we look about if I'm people have to remember that's how to stay. I think any well-trained journalists understand that, because we have to weigh, I'm publishing this, what's the impact that will produce, and yes, so yes, I think answering your question, I think is going back to as a journalist, to understand your responsibility to the peace and culture, peace and non-violence in a community, because not everything something can be true, but you have to look about your responsibility, how you deliver that information to the people and how people will take it.
Ma'am, Mansi, please continue.
Thank you, sir. Ma'am, while answering my previous question, you had mentioned that there are crimes that are so gruesome that the entire community develops hatred, kind of ill feelings towards the offender. So, ma'am, when we talk about non-violent communication, it is essentially empathetic in nature, and one needs to feel what the actual conflict is. So, ma'am, sometimes, and rather most of the times, in case of gruesome crimes, the emotional biases, whether it be of the judicial officer or of the mediator, they actually start creeping into the process. So, ma'am, what do you suggest for the removal of such emotional biases from the justice delivery process, ma'am?
I'm sorry, can you repeat again? I didn't get it.
Ma'am, the nature of some crimes is so gruesome that everybody actually starts feeling for the victim. And there is a possibility that the judicial officer or the mediator presiding over the process of justice delivery may actually get biased emotionally towards one side. So, ma'am, what do you suggest for the removal of biases
Mm,
from the process of justice, ma'am?
Yeah, you can be biased sometimes, but for me, I feel like if you use both verbal and non-verbal communication, that can help you to overcome those biases. You can overcome those biases because you might be also looking at the more the person, the way they, maybe the other side of the way, maybe offenders or perpetrator, the way they express themselves. So I think by your skills of be able to use nonverbal communication or identify nonverbal communication cues, that could be helpful.
So coming to another question, that we need some skills in order to ensure that what is happening is fair to both the parties, ma'am. So is there a special skill set which is required by those overseeing the justice delivery process, whether it be mediation or any other form of restorative justice? Do you think people can be trained into these skills, or we actually need to look out for people who are born with these skills, ma'am?
Yeah. So yes, I think that's a lot of people, they can argue being a teacher, need to be born to be a teacher, or to be born or be trained, or maybe for journalism, you have to be born journalist. So for me, I feel like it's a trait. It's a trait. Some people are born with those some qualities in their generic. They're born with the qualities. So, but to be good mediator, you those qualities, they are good. If you have it, that's okay. But also you can be trained, and if even you have those, if you have those traits, still need to be can be enhanced by training. So training becomes still a core, is important too. And also if mediators are coming from the culture that embrace equality and Ubuntu, you come from that culture, and that also can help. It can be great foundation for restorative justice mediators. So it can be both, can be either, like any other professional. But some people, that's why sometimes you go, can say, that's a great doctor. That's great doctor. Some can go to the doctor and the doctor just, you explain to that doctor and she just knows, So you trained, yes, doctor trained, but also there's some traits people are born with it. So make it easy, make it more, better, you stand out.
Right.
And you can
Thank
be
you so much.
trained. You can be only trained and you can stand out also. But you have addition, the gift also. You can have some gift. Yes.
Ma'am, what I can conclude is that yes, one can be trained into becoming a good mediator, but if you have those innate qualities, that is like a cherry on the top of the cake, right?
Yes, you can be best. Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. My other question is, the concept of restorative justice is very similar to that of community mediation, wherein we should bring the parties together to one table, and encounter between the parties is very important whenever we want to ensure that the mediation process or the restorative justice is being done. So, ma'am, please elaborate upon any difficulties you might have faced while handling any such case, so as to ensure the inclusion of all the parties and the claimed stakes in the process of justice to restoration, ma'am.
So, yeah, this is about, for example, Gandhi's values of Mahatma Gandhi is hate the sin, not the sinner. Okay, that condemn the action, not human, not a person. So you can't condemn a human being or individual as the agents. You condemn the act. That's Mahatma Gandhi believed that. So when you look those beliefs, restorative justice, and that is Restorative Justice Foundation. And also is Ubuntu too. What Mahatma Gandhi is saying here, this is Ubuntu. So, so I see the similarities from that past Gandhian principles of nonviolence and Western ideas of restorative justice. I see a lot of similarities because restorative justice is a focus on relationships between the people. It's focus of integration of the offender, and also provide this landscape that will foster the relationship. And also restorative justice also provide support to the victim, and also that it discourage the punitive justice. And revenge are not allowed in restorative justice. Restorative justice encourages reconciliation, forgiveness, as Mahatma Gandhi is talking about, encourage rehabilitation of the offender, empowers both, I mean, all that has to do with the preserve and protect is human dignity. Yes, so I can say that, and all this is Ubuntu, is about. Yeah, future relationship, we treat each other the way you want to treat the other person, right? When you do something wrong, you can do mistake today, you do something wrong. You don't want to be stigmatized and outcasted. You don't want that, okay? You want people to forgive you and to bring you back to the community, okay? You don't want somebody to hate you. You do something, all of us, we commit sins, you know, but you don't want people to hate. We're not angels to do everything is correct, perfect stuff. No. We do mistake. We do things we're not supposed to do sometimes, but we don't want people to hate you because of that action. Okay, we want people to love you, and that's what Mahatma Gandhi is about, and that is also Ubuntu is about.
Thank you, ma'am. So I can see Gandhi's portrait in the background, ma'am. So so I'm sure that you're very well aware of what the idea of non-violence is. So, ma'am, and also you're a journalist, ma'am. So what essential qualities, according to your experience, make a communication non-violent, ma'am?
To make a communication non-violent, I think I think it's for me, like, I feel like mostly peaceful communication as a journalist, to listen effectively, to be an effective listener, and to be compassionate, and as a journalist, to follow the rules as a journalist, being well balanced, not to provide fake news or being prey in the middle of being biased, to be promoting one side over the other, you know, to be fair and balanced. And those are the qualities and values and skills of journalism and supposed to have somebody journalist supposed to work that. Anybody working in the media, those are things you're supposed to do. You can't be biased. And that's the same as restorative justice. You cannot be biased. You have to be an effective listener, and in the journalism also, as well as in practice in restorative justice, you need to do that. Yes, I hope I answered your question correctly.
Yes, ma'am. Very beautifully, in fact. Thank you so much, ma'am. And the last question is, you have already mentioned that the communication is not just about sounds, but the what the sounds are actually conveying, the feelings beneath them are very important. So, ma'am, do you think the understanding of neurolinguistics or the body language or the behavioral science has any role to play in the process of restorative justice?
Oh, definitely. As I said in another question, this is very similar to the other question you asked me about non-verbal communication. Become, as I said, you know, we speak more with our body languages. So we need to, when you speak with those parties in a conflict, we have to listen to those non-verbal cues, because we can gain more information from that. than speaking. As I say, some people can manipulate, even like polygraphs can be manipulated. Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. Just one more thing to go. At times, parties are unwilling to talk to each other. So, because the nature of crime is such, maybe feeling of revenge or vengeance is so overpowering that they do not want to come and talk over the dispute, ma'am. So, what all suggestions will you give in this case, which can bring the parties together to the table so that they have a conversation?
Can you repeat again?
Ma'am, what all efforts can be made by a mediator in order to bring the parties who are conflicting on a conversation table so that the differences can be sorted out? Because a good number of time the parties are unwilling to talk to each other, ma'am.
Yes. Okay. Okay. So to bring them together, I think. Okay, repeat again the question to make sure I'm getting right. I'm getting tired. So you are saying in order to bring the two parties together.
Yes, ma'am, because sometimes the parties are not really willing to talk to each other. They do not actually want to settle the dispute because the feeling of revenge or hatred is so overpowering, ma'am. So
Okay.
in this case, what is the role of mediator so as to make sure that the parties converse, they at least talk to each other?
Okay. So a lot of time, wow. Okay, a lot of time, I mean, party in a conflict has to feel that they are under pressure of coming in between on a common ground. They have to have the feeling that we need to meet to this common ground. We need to be together. They have to have that under pressure. That pressure has to be there. So they feel obligated, and that's what's happened in these societies that they are talking about, Ubuntu culture, collective culture societies. People, they're under pressure to maintain and restore the relationships. So people, when they come to the conflict, they feel like I have to come to the common goal. So that pressure has to be there. And in these traditional societies, because everybody is watching at you to see who is a troublemaker here, who doesn't want to come to the conclusion, who doesn't want to come to the table and settle this. They are looking at you. So that's how you find people. They are cooperating and they come to that common goal. They end up talking because there's people watching you. Who's a troublemaker here? But that also has been, when you I'm seeing that more of a community pressure of to come to the table from collective culture more. I believe in India can be like a look of family pressure. I have a conflict with my husband. We need to divorce. We need to divide this property. But I'm difficult. Who's difficult one? So the family is watching you. Who's difficult? Who's strong-headed here? So you find yourself you're under pressure of settling, because the elders and family and other community leaders somewhere, if it's not a family issue. So that is a pressure also. You feel like I have to come to the common ground and we can resolve this matter peacefully without damaging the relationship. But this is a challenging from individual communities, individual societies, for example, United States, and individualistic societies like United States. So when you are in a conflict with your wife, you go to the mediator, right? There's a conflict dispute resolutions. You go to the mediator, but if one of the persons see there's a chance there, I can win everything. So that would be incentive for that person not to cooperate. I'm saying, wow, I'm gonna get this and this. If I do mediation, I won't get any of this. And this is his own fault, or this is her own fault. But if we do, the court will favor me this and this and this. So they'll go after that. So that's because of individualistic society. So they tend to court, this legal stuff become challenging the restorative justice, become destructive to the restorative justice approach. to conflict resolution.
Thank you so much, ma'am. That was a very interesting answer. So I'm done with my questions, Veda.
Now, I think, Mansi, we could open the floor in case anyone would like to ask any question to ma'am. Rajdeep is also there and others are also there. Anyone would like to, before we wind up, anyone would like to, now it is open. So anyone would like to ask ma'am any question, please go ahead. Hello?
Hello.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I'm just asking, I've opened the floor for any person who would like to ask any question. Anyone would like to ask any question, please? Ma'am, I want to ask a specific question.
Yes.
This is in the context of the traditional societies.
Just a minute. Just a minute. I don't understand why my phone doesn't. My computer. Hey, Les, the PowerPoint, please. I'll have only 5% here. I don't know if the PowerPoint is okay. Yeah. What happened? Yeah, good now. Okay, I'm sorry. Yes.
So, ma'am, the last question, ma'am, in this context of the traditional, ma'am, in the context of the traditional justice system, like we already discussed about the gachacha. Here, in the context of Africa, I wanted to know, because we don't have much idea about different traditional systems of justice in Africa. Can you share light on other, besides the gachacha, in other countries of Africa, such kind of traditional justice systems which have been there, time immemorial? Here also in India, we have different forms of traditional justice. So, in case if you could throw some light on that traditional justice.
So you're asking that I mentioned about gachacha for Rwanda. Do they have other system of restorative justice system in other African countries? That's what question is about?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so yes, the gachacha. When you say gachacha, is the same as to say reconciliation. Okay, like the similar as you say the truth reconciliation commission, the conciliation process, the conciliation process. That's gachacha. So we see this more. The name show up for gachacha from Rwanda because become more prominent because they went through this. This is genocide event took place there in 1990. That's why they have a gachacha there. But I believe there's a lot of traditional approach to conflict. Even them, they have different names because so many languages, But what I know as African, grew up in Africa, and see what has been done. There are processes. I don't know the name per se, but I see people in a conflict. They don't go. When I grew up, okay, people they got in conflict. A wife and I remember when I was a kid, my dad was one of the 10 cell leaders. Like every 10 houses, you have a leader. Every 10 houses, we have a leader. Every 10 houses. So that still exists even today in Tanzania. So my dad was one of the, I think was a member, is a committee member in that 10 cell leaders. So people, when they have a conflict, they come knock the door, to my dad. You see, so I saw that happen to my dad. They go, and these people, like people from different ethnic groups, live together. It's not just particular one. It's in small town. It was that time was Morogoro, which is not big as Dar es Salaam, but it was a big is a town. Is larger. Is a town. Is big town, not a city. So they sit down and they listen. They go through the process of conflict resolution. They get to some, okay, I know your husband is a problem, or your husband is a drinker. They counsel the guy, stop drinking, how you do it. They work through that. Then the family, they still continue their lives as wife. They stop that, breaking the families, they solve the conflict, immediate conflict. So I saw that from my grandfather, intervening conflicts, and they've been called to deal with the conflict. In a village, people stealing cows, other people's cows. Elders are called in a village to resolve the problem, the matter. Somebody stole the cow, how you deal with it. So I saw all that. But I can't say there's a name. I know people have ways, to deal with it. Even Ubuntu became popular after apartheid movement during the reconciliation process, 1990s. Desmond Tutu is a person made the term Ubuntu popular, to be known and also to be adapted to other part of the world, not only African using reconciliation now. A lot of countries around the world, they adapt to Ubuntu reconciliation processes. But the person who popularized it is Desmond Tutu. And that has to do with what's happened there. So this good value of conflict resolution. Oh, we have this here. Do you remember this approach was used before? Oh yeah, but a lot of qualitative traditional ways. I believe in India to have a lot of good stuff there. They're under the surface. But once you come with something happen, oh, what we have there in the bag, good quality stuff we can apply to this. You go and look and have other values, great values you have there. We don't apply that until we reach some situation. They're like, okay, let's look at this. Oh yeah, this is great. So, and that's what's happened to Ubuntu. Ubuntu is something very popular, was used, and people, they're not even aware what was it. Was using across the continent, but people have a different name. Not all of them in traditional ethnic group, they call it Ubuntu. So they call Bamuntu, they call Utu, they have that the same aspect, they have it. Okay, for Gachacha, because it became popular, because they face something, they have a Gachacha, become popular. But there's more and more, even great other values they have it. And this is Gachacha also is very similar to Ubuntu. They have the values of Ubuntu too, the restorative justice process. Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. No other questions. Just last time I'm from the audience in case anyone has any question for ma'am.
I have a question. I have a question. Yeah. I was wondering if you could say, I know you've been doing research on Ubuntu as peace building, and if you could say more about how the practices like at funerals train people, sort of socialize people into this attitude of community, of harmony, of relationship, and of thinking long-term relationship impacts of any kind of conflict and the need to resolve it.
Yes, so I'm going to give an example. Let's thank you for asking that. I think that would be great. I can bring this example so I can share with others to understand this idea of Ubuntu that is become popular in South Africa because of Desmond Tutu and Gachacha because of the genocide. But Ubuntu exists in everyday life across, but they have a different name. But those concepts, they're very similar, the same thing. Okay. So when I was a child, maybe I was 13 years old, and this woman tell me the story about she just got married, so she moved to in Dar es Salaam to the same building we are living, and what she told me the story. There's this woman, when there's a funeral, she doesn't participate in funeral. She doesn't give herself to others. She doesn't practice Ubuntu, means she doesn't practice Ubuntu. Ubuntu, you have to give yourself to others. When you talk about to give yourself to others, doesn't mean to be philanthropist. It doesn't mean to give the money, go write a big check there, then you are gone. It's not about that. You give yourself to people. That's the definition of Ubuntu. It's not about your money. So so she tells this story, this woman, when there's a funeral, she will go there and with a bag of potato and deliver the potato and leave. Okay. So usually it's supposed to be done, if you have a potato, we'll bring the potatoes, we'll wash them, we'll clean them. If people cook there, we can cook with them. You can sit down with them, you can cry with them, you can comfort them, you can give them company, you can go home next day at least for half an hour, then you can come visit them. After funeral is done, you can go back again to the family and visit them now and then and offer, what they want. Anything small they want, you can do it. So this woman, she never done any of that. She never gave herself to others. So when there's a funeral, she'll take a bag of potatoes and they deliver the potatoes to the family. There's another funeral, she'll do the same thing. Take the bags, they lift the bag, and she's gone. Another funeral, the same thing. So people, they are watching her, and she has no idea. And this is big over there. They watch you, how you give yourself to others, So one day was her turn. Somebody in the family lost. She lost somebody she loved in the family. You know what people did? Everybody brought bag of potato in the house. The house was full of potatoes and no one stayed. They just went there, delivered the potatoes and left. Another person came, delivered the potatoes and left. So she stayed there only with potatoes. You see? So that is like James Scott is talking about. There's a way, weapon of the poor, right? There's a way people can resist those kind of behavior, and people learn from it, and that's become social pressure of you come to the middle ground, right? To come to the middle ground. There's something happened, I have to give myself, because tomorrow something can happen to me. Who's gonna take care of me? As I said, a lot of places in Africa, people that don't have funeral insurance. Those things are foreign. They are new. If they come just now, they're very new. You didn't have to have those things. Yes.
That's right. That's right. That's really insightful, ma'am. That's very insightful. Interesting. So, ma'am, I think now we don't want to take much of your time. It's more than 1 hour, and I'm sure you must be very tired. It's wonderful talking to you and wonderful interacting. It is always a great honor to talk to sir, and this is today we have got the honor to talk to you, and we got a lot of insights on the whole idea of restorative justice. And in fact, I would request Mr. Pankaj to kindly short everyone if they can take make those on so that we can have some photographs and snapshots of that.
Okay, sir. Fine, sir.
Yeah, Pankaj can kindly take the
Yes.
photograph.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay, sir. Fine, sir. Fine.
This whole session, and then we will add it, and we you on this whole idea and Gandhi. I said we are really honored. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks.